Hi, and welcome to the tutorial for Dolby Vision in Cortex. Using the Edit tool in Cortex, the editing and rendering of Dolby Vision IMF or non-IMF deliverables is a straightforward operation similar to any editorial job. Cortex allows you to overwrite, insert, lift, and extract media and metadata using familiar drag and drop or three-point editing techniques. In addition, you can alter the metadata segment length through trimming. You can copy and paste metadata from one segment to another, and if needed, use the color tool to analyze and process level 1 color metadata. For this tool, you'll need to have prior knowledge of the layout and functions of Cortex, especially the Edit tool. Please visit tutorials.mtifilm.com to familiarize yourself with Cortex before coming back here to learn about Dolby Vision. Function Help key for this tool is available in the Help menu, and as we go through the tutorial, keyboard shortcuts will appear on the screen for easy reference. To access the manual, press Shift F1 at any time while Cortex is open. It is important to understand that Dolby Vision combines media and metadata, two elements that must remain in sync to facilitate the proper viewing of both HDR and SDR color streams. Generally speaking, Dolby Vision provides the ability to virtualize SDR Rec 709 color through what is known as content mapping metadata, or, for this tutorial, Dolby Vision metadata. This metadata is generated by industry-standard color correction systems licensed to apply the proprietary color mapping algorithm and secondary color trims developed by Dolby. The metadata is recorded to an XML file based on Dolby specifications and then applied to HDR media by specialized software applications such as Cortex for the purpose of viewing and creating deliverables utilizing both the media and metadata. Cortex is equipped with an integrated software CMU, or content mapping unit, removing the need for expensive external hardware. Now all deliverables can have Dolby Vision content mapping applied when the media and its corresponding metadata are contained in a Cortex composition. When setting up a deliverable, choose from the list of target presets that allows Cortex's software CMU to apply the correct content mapping. In order to create a Dolby Vision IMF, you must create a deliverable that is compatible for that purpose. Cortex provides a number of options, including Netflix deliverables. In a new job, import your media and corresponding Dolby Vision XML. Then create a new composition. It can be a standard composition or an IMF, depending on the output requirement. For example, if you need a Rec 709 ProRes for the mix stage, you'll just need to create a standard composition as opposed to an IMF. In the new composition dialog, enable the HDR and Dolby Vision checkboxes. Enabling Dolby Vision automatically adds a metadata track to the timeline. If you don't have external metadata, you can click here to select the Dolby Vision version and mastering primaries you would like to use. You can always add the metadata track later by right-clicking on the timeline and selecting Add Metadata Track from the context menu, or by pressing Shift and clicking the M button. Dolby Vision metadata files contain all required HDR color information, so it's not necessary to fill in any of the metadata manually, since the values will automatically be updated once the Dolby Vision XML is added to the metadata track. When all of the information for the composition is entered, click the Create button. In the upper right of the UI, the Metadata tab is selected by default. This tab is used for both Dolby Vision and HDR10 content, whether the information is entered manually or automatically. Next, assemble the composition. For this tutorial, we have a DPX sequence for the video track. We also have a Dolby Vision XML file that we're going to place on the metadata track. Note that when the XML is added to the timeline, the color in the player window updates because the selected deliverable is set to apply Rec 709 content mapping. Also note that the metadata tab is populated with the inherited values. Manually navigate through the breaks to confirm that the marks on the metadata track correspond correctly with the shot changes in the media. Then enable the metadata track and those media tracks you want to remain in sync when editing. Right-click on the timeline, go to Dolby Vision Metadata and select Establish Sync. An orange sync icon will appear alongside the enabled tracks. This creates a sync relationship between the metadata and media so that if any track is shifted by an editorial command, a loss of sync indication will appear to warn that the sync relationship has been broken. You can also lock tracks you don't want affected by the editing process by pressing Ctrl and clicking on the individual tracks, or pressing Ctrl-Shift and clicking on any track, which will lock all the tracks. Control or Control-Shift and clicking on the tracks again will unlock them. If you need to insert a new clip into the timeline along with the corresponding metadata, you can use the typical Cortex edit commands to make the insertion via drag and dropping to the edit point while holding down the Control key, or a 3-point edit using the H key. Make sure that you insert an identical amount of media and metadata in order to maintain sync across your composition. Similarly, to overwrite, extract, or lift a segment, be sure to perform the identical action on all required tracks. Now, let's look at the purple colored segment of the metadata. This indicates a warning that metadata for the segment is invalid. If we check the Shots tab, we see that the segment has Level 1 and Level 2 metadata values set to 0. To fix this, there are a few options. If the shot to either side of this segment is similar, you can use the rolling trim function to extend the metadata over the invalid segment. If you find a shot on another part of the timeline that is similar to the invalid shot, you can select it and copy the metadata, and then select the invalid segment and paste it. Lastly, you can use the Color tool to do a Level 1 analysis on the segment that has invalid metadata. In the Color Tools Function tab, choose Dolby Vision HDR metadata. Level 1 analysis is done on a per deliverable basis so that you can accurately see the mapped color for each deliverable as processed through the color pipeline for that deliverable. If you want the analysis to apply directly to the HDR source without regard of a particular deliverable, ensure that Analyze from Source is selected. This will prevent you from analyzing the media through a deliverable whose color pipeline may influence the analysis. If your media is letterboxed or pillarboxed, enable the region of interest, or ROI, and set the mask to the edge of the active picture. Zoom in on the picture by using the mouse wheel so that you can accurately place the ROI mask. The ROI is used to define the active picture boundaries for the analysis. The mouse wheel zoom is only for viewing purposes and does not affect the actual framing. Choose how much of the composition Cortex will analyze. Selecting Current Event will instruct Cortex to analyze only the media that falls beneath the current segment. Then press Calculate. Always review the analysis before moving on to the next task. If you've analyzed in Dolby Vision 4.0, you can preview the 2.9 analysis by clicking here. And that's the tutorial for Dolby Vision in Cortex. To continue learning about Cortex, visit tutorials.mtifilm.com. For support, to submit a help ticket, or to find other useful information about Cortex, please check out forum.mtifilm.com. Thanks!